Hello guys, I hope everybody is able to see me, hear me. I hope everybody is able to see me, hear me. Can I get a quick confirmation on chat? And on YouTube also, I hope everybody is able to see me. Right? Okay, perfect. So thank you very much guys for joining in. We're going to be in today's session. Okay, what is the agenda for today's session? Okay, first I will give you a brief of about FRM level 2 exam. Okay, what has been my experience with respect to the exam. Then I will be walking you walkthrough of all books which are there for FRM level 2. Okay, then I'll be talking about how we are going to help you. We are going to prepare you for FRM level 2 exam for May 2024. Okay, then at the end I'll also be talking about some pointers, okay, related to do's and don't for the exam. Okay, further we're also going to be talking about, okay, what should be your approach for the exam FRM L2 exam preparation. Okay, so that is the agenda that I want to cover in today's session. Okay, so the overall perspective, I'll start with the first bullet point, which is basically going to be what I'll give you a brief about the FRM level 2 exam. Okay, so first of all, you guys must have heard a lot of things which are connected, okay, which is already there on public domain. Like for example, there are like around 97 chapters. Okay, this is from your 2023 curriculum. Okay, from this 97 chapters which are across 6 books. Okay, you will be getting around 80 question in the exam, and to solve this 80 question you have 4 hours. Okay, so from the exam perspective, first, time will not be a problem in the actual exam day. Okay, because you get 4 hours. Okay, you get around 80 questions to solve, so fairly it is a good time frame for you to go ahead and solve it. So it's not the way we were looking at time level 1, time management was a critical point. Over here it is not that big a problem. Okay, second, which is second point which you have to understand over here, the syllabus is vast. Okay, from level 2 where we had 62 chapters, we are now moving towards 97 chapters. Okay, so the syllabus is moved from 62 to 97, and the number of question in the exam has moved from 800 to 80. So questions number has gone down and the syllabus has gone up. Okay, so when you're looking at such a vast syllabus, okay, and you're looking at lesser number of questions, so what generally institute does is they will ask you mixed questions. Not every question, but they will test you on mixed questions also, okay, which are applicable to the exam perspective. Okay, so there's definitely going to be mixed question. When I'm saying mixed, it could be like mostly credit and market combined. Okay, then there will also be questions connected from operation and liquidity risk. Okay, so that is the overall perspective of the exam. We have to the curriculum being very vast, 97 chapter. So your approach which we're using from for level 1. So if I just quickly compare FRM level 1 and FRM level 2, okay, so there were like 62 chapters, 97 chapters. Over here you had good amount of calculation based question or chapters. Okay, good you had futures valuation, option valuation, good calculation was there. This is theory heavy. Okay, it's purely theory heavy. There are chapters which are based on calculation, but very few. Okay, the concept over here were very easy when we talk about level 1, because it was basic concept which you must have already seen in CFA, in MBA, like that. But when we go to concepts in level 2, Okay, they are slightly tricky concepts because they are not explaining you the basic part. Okay, and when you talk about books, okay, so each book has been bifurcated for different types of risk. Okay, so that is also makes increase the trickiness of the overall concept. You'll have to think what is being given. It is not going to be very simple and easy. Okay, in the one more interesting part about level 2 is that the books. So there is one book which is explicitly for market risk, MR. I'm writing it as MR. The second book is for credit risk. Okay. The third book is ops risk. Okay. The fourth book is liquidity risk. The fifth book is investment management risk. And the sixth book is current issues. Okay. And when you talk about the weightages, the major weightages are covered by these three books, the first three books. Okay. And current issues has very, very low weightage. Okay. When we talk about theory, okay, so majorly you'll find credit, operation, liquidity, and current issues heavy theory, very, very less calculation. There is some amount of calculation in investment management and some amount of calculation in market risk. Okay. So this is the overview of the overall FRM level 2 books, okay, and the exam part. In case if there is any query, you can put it on the chat section, and also I'll be addressing the query as we move ahead. Okay, so let us go to the each book by book. I'll walk you through the quickly walk you through each book, explaining what is there in the different types of chapters. Let us start with the first book, market risk. Okay, so over here, this book overall, this book has some component of calculation also, plus the theory. So I'm going to write T, which means theory, and C means calculation. Okay. Apart from that, let us go to each chapter. The first chapter, measuring market risk. This has some base with the VAR calculation that we have seen in level 1. Okay. From the exam perspective, you can easily expect one question from this chapter. Okay. Understanding wise, this chapter is not very tough. Okay. If you are good in, if you have done FRM level 2 recently, you will be able to connect it better. So one question easily, and the next two chapters, parametric, non-parametric approach. So ideally what they try to do, they will combine these two chapters and they will give you a range of 1 to 2 questions, depending upon what is the weightage they want to put over the approaches chapter. Okay, from this, the non-parametric approach is slightly easy. Okay, parametric approach, because the content in this chapter is slightly more related to distribution and all of that, extreme value. So it is not very easy, because they are entering into extreme value theory, which we have not done in level 1. So slightly it is tricky. Okay. Again, both of them are theory chapter, not very calculation intensive. Okay. From the exam perspective, they can combine both the chapters and ask you a question. Next chapter is backtesting VAR, and backtesting VAR, very, very important from the exam perspective. You can easily expect 2 questions or range of what I'm trying to highlight is the overall chapter is important. You cannot ignore this chapter when you're reading the market risk book. Okay, so backtesting VAR, it is theoretical but very understanding driven. Okay, so that is this chapter. Okay, VAR mapping, certain part, I've only put 1 star. Certain part is very, very important. Okay, so for example, the basic concept of VAR mapping, okay, and mapping fixed income security, these are slightly important part. So over here also you can expect 1 to 2 questions depending upon how they want to test you overall in the exam. Okay, next is theoretical chapter, academic literature. So what over here they are trying to do is, what all different risk measures available in the market, they're giving you commentary related to each one of them. So in this chapter, it's a mix of what we have read entirely in level 1 in terms of different risk approaches, scenario analysis, testing, backtesting, everything. Okay, so one question, but not so very important chapter. Certain part might be, but not entirely. From here, we are entering into the correlation risk concepts. So there are different chapters. Again, the focus on the correlation is to help you understand during crisis, the correlation went up. So how it is going to impact you as a portfolio manager, as a risk manager. Okay. This chapter, easy chapter. Lot of things you have already seen in level 1. It is connected to level 1. Okay. Majority theory, not very difficult as such. Okay, you can easily expect one question from this chapter. It's lengthy but not very difficult. Okay, empirical properties of a correlation, a very short chapter, majority theory, and there's one section from that chapter that is important. Okay, that they can ask you very specific straightforward question. Okay, so I don't know whether they will test you or not. I'm not putting any number of question over here, but understanding wise the chapter is also small and very basic information is there. Financial correlation modeling, the next chapter focuses on Gaussian's cupola. Okay, it has the bottom up approach and slightly tricky. Okay, it's slightly difficult chapter. Okay, in the exam you can expect one easily question being tested. Generally they ask you theoretical question on cupola. Okay, so Gaussian's cupola, if you remember, there was one section in level 1 also where we're talking about the cupola part. Okay, so one question definitely can get tested from this chapter. Now from here, the important part actually starts. The first three chapters focusing on term structures are very, very important. Okay, so do not skip this first chapter. Okay, marking it as double star. Signs of the term structure and the evolution of the short-term rate. Okay, so these three chapters combined, they can easily ask you 3 to 4 questions. Okay, it has calculation intensive topic. Okay, so you will have to do the number of calculation and all. So all three chapters you should not skip while you're preparing for your level 2 exam. Okay, the fourth chapter, which is over here, art of term structure model, it is also part of the term structure theory, but from the exam perspective there are very specific content which might get tested. So I'm not highlighting very, very important as such, but you still can find one question from the chapter, but not so important content over here. Okay, empirical approach. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake, my bad. So I was actually referring about this chapter. This chapter is also important. This chapter is also important. Okay, art of term structure model drift is important. Okay, and overall this entire chapter they can ask you 3 to 4 questions. So these 4 chapters they can combine and ask you combined questions also and important. So do not skip it. This part, which is volatility and distribution, over here the CIR model. Okay, that model basic formulas can get tested, but again one question not so important from the exam perspective. Let us move forward towards the volatility smile. Again, important chapter. Okay, theoretical chapter, not so calculation. It's easy chapter. Understanding has to be clear. It will basically connect it to your Black-Scholes model from level 1. The chapter starts with the thought process that the Black-Scholes model is not going to be used directly the way we have seen in level 1 in the real market. They use it to identify volatility smiles and how volatility smiles will help you to create the term structure of volatility or volatility surface. That is what is being covered from this chapter. Okay, volatility smiles. Next is fundamental review of trading book. Now this chapter has to be done with Basel related chapters in ops risk. Okay, Basel related chapters in ops risk. So the idea over here is that whenever you're preparing, you should skip the chapter with when you're doing for market risk, and you should do it with the operation risk book when they are doing Basel related concept. Again, this chapter is not very important from the exam perspective. Okay, but at an overall level it has to be connected. They can ask you some connected concepts with the Basel related chapter. So this is where we complete the first book of the FRM level 2 prep. Okay, any query you can put it on chat. I'll address the query, so do not worry about it. Let us move to the second book where we are entering into the credit risk book. Okay, this book is vast. Okay, there are a lot of important chapters from the book which can get tested in the exam. Okay, the first book, credit decision, very, very basic chapter, one question, theory, not heavy calculation based content. Okay, again over here their focus is on making you understand the basics of credit risk. How when a company or a bank basically gives loan, what do they take into account while they're taking that decision of lending. Okay, next is credit analyst, not so important chapter. It's pure theory. They are basically talking about what if you're going to work as a credit analyst, what is going to be your job description. So easy but lengthy and theoretical, so not so prevalent in terms of the content as such. Capital structure in bank, important chapter, mark this as double star. Okay, from the exam perspective, they can test you on calculation of expected loss, unexpected loss, how the economic capital is derived. So all of these are important. So you can expect 1 to 2 question easily from the exam perspective. Okay, important. Actually, this chapter was previously in level 1, then they moved it to level 2. Rating assignment methodology. So whenever you're preparing for your credit risk, there are 3-4 chapters which you should do it at the end. At the end means at the end of the curriculum. Okay, so why am I explicitly saying this? Because these three, 4 chapters are very lengthy and slightly tough. Okay, so you should do it at the end. Rest all chapters in credit risk is easy. Okay, so one of the chapter which you should skip and do it at the end is rating assignment methodology. Okay, what they are trying to do is they are trying to tell you over here is that if you are working in a rating agency, what logic, what methodology they are going to use to find the overall perspective of the ratings. Okay, how do they derive the rating, what approach they are using. So that has been covered in this chapter. From the exam perspective, you can expect 1 question. Do not put a lot of time for this chapter because it is not worth it. It's so huge. Okay, and lot of theory, you will end up missing the core structure of the chapter. So my suggestion is you can do it at the end. 1 chapter, not so important. Let us move forward. Credit risk and credit derivative. Yes, important. I'm putting 1 single star. You can expect 1 to 2 question from this chapter. In this chapter, the Merton model, the basic structure of Merton model is very important. Okay, then they're talking about CDS, that is important. Total return swap is important. Okay, and in Merton model, they have given you 2 approaches. One is a very simple case, and one with a variety of debt, senior subordinate debt, that has to be incorporated. So both of these concepts are important. 1 to 2 question. Again, heavy theoretical chapters are there in this up till now in this book. Spread risk and default intensity. So in this entire chapter, okay, you'll find hazard rate. That is important. Hazard rate approach. What is hazard rate? How they are finding it? All that is important. Okay. Again, you can expect 1 question from this chapter. But rest, there are a lot of unnecessary things or not so important things being discussed in the chapter also, which I find is not connected much to the overall concept. So we can skip that and focus more on important part over here. Okay, again, this chapter can be done at the end. Let us move towards the next part, portfolio credit risk. Okay, now what is the problem with this chapter is that the focus is on finding credit VAR. Okay, so but the overall logic is that when you read the chapter, there is a lot of derivations being given. Okay, and slightly modeling driven concept is there. So as we move towards the last 3-4 modules, it is more of modeling. So I generally do this chapter at the end only because it's if you do it right now, your morale will go down. You'll feel that okay, level 2 is very tough, but it is not. If you remove these 4 chapters which I just talked about, you'll not face any challenge in credit risk. Okay, I do not expect any question from this chapter on an average, but if you're not so lucky, you'll get 1 question from the chapter from the exam perspective. Next is structured credit risk, important from the exam perspective. Easily 2 questions can be expected from this chapter. Okay, again, I'm putting a rough idea based on my experience with respect to talking to students. So over here, the waterfall structure of the cash flow is very important. Then how does your change, okay, in probability of default and correlation in the entire model, entire tranches, how that change is going to impact your riskiness, or how does it going to impact your credit VAR? That has been explained in detail in the chapter. Lengthy chapter, important chapter, 2 questions. Okay, again, theory and some amount of calculation is there from the chapter. From here, we are entering into the counterparty risk section. Okay, so counterparty risk and beyond, 1 question easily. Okay, pure theory and easy chapter. Okay, this is an introductory part. Okay, they are giving you in this chapter the X value adjustments is important. Okay, and some basic part which you have already seen in level 1. So it is not a tough chapter as such. Okay, let us move to netting, closing and related part. I am marking this chapter as star. Okay, 1 to 2 question can be expected from this chapter. It is basically taking you detail into the ISDA agreement of your OTC market transactions. Okay, so basically they are focusing on the collateral related terms or credit related terms. Okay, so this chapter is very, very important from the exam perspective. Similarly, margin collateral settlement is important, 1 to 2 question. So do not skip this chapter. Theory, easy chapter. Both the chapters are easy. Okay, theory and easy, you can easily do it. Content is not very tough. Okay, but one way CSA, two way CSA is very, very important. What is the threshold? What is minimum transfer amount? What is initial margin over here? All of these are important concepts which you should know for your level 2 exam. Okay, future value and exposure, there is initial part of the chapter 2-3 part that is slightly important. Okay, but you can definitely expect one question from the exam perspective, again theoretical driven. It's not tough, okay, but it is basically lengthy. The chapter is lengthy and there are certain things which you'll have to assume in this chapter. Okay, so lengthy chapter. CVA, very, very important from the exam perspective. Again, this is a lengthy chapter because previously we had wrong way risk, a separate chapter which is now combined with the CVA. Okay, so if you read from here, actually from here till this part entirely we are talking about wrong way risk. So that part, and from here it is focusing on CVA. Do not skip this chapter. You can easily get 2 to 3 questions from this chapter. Do not skip it. Very, very important. Okay, credit value adjustment focus is on when you're entering into any transaction, you face a credit risk. So how do you incorporate that into the pricing and make an adjustment to the pricing? That has been covered over here. Stress testing, not so important. Okay, very, very basic part. There are a few sections which are important, which I'll definitely highlight when I'm going to teach the concept. Okay, so you can expect, say, one question theoretical, and if you're lucky, you'll not get any specific question from this chapter also. Let us move towards the next part. From here, okay, we are slightly entering into the securitization product related part. Then we are also entering into some credit transfer related part. Okay, this chapter is easy. Okay, there is a certain part which is slightly tough or basically slightly important, the cumulative accuracy profile. Rest of the chapter is okay. So one question, I'm not very bullish on this chapter. This chapter, credit transfer market, okay, and introduction to securitization, both are connected to what you have already read in level 1. Okay, so credit transfer market, this chapter, in this chapter, the overall this last learning objective is slightly important. So you can expect one question from this part, from this chapter. And introduction to securitization, this calculation part is important. So I'm marking this as star. Okay, so but 1 to 2 question can be easily tested from the exam perspective. Next is understanding securitization of subprime mortgage. Mark this as double star. They've given you case study of what exactly happened during the 2007 and 8 crisis. Okay, this case study is very, very important. 1 to 2 question can be easily tested. Okay, so this is the last chapter of your credit risk book. I hope everybody is with me. सब लोग साथ में हैं यहाँ तक? Any queries? Any queries till this point? Okay, we are going to be moving towards the third book, which is the operation risk book. This entire book roughly covers 25 chapters. Okay, very theoretical, theory driven. One chapter might have some calculation, but entirely theory. So treat this chapter, okay, as a novel, which means start reading the chapter theory. Just start reading the textbook again and again and again. Every month, just complete one time. That is what my suggestion is. Okay. From the exam perspective, now I'm going to talk about introduction to operation risk and resilience. In basic theoretical chapter, one question can be expected, not very important chapter from the exam perspective. Okay. When we enter into this governance is very, very important. Okay, you can expect 2 question, 1 to 2 question range also over here from this chapter. again, theoretical focus is, so previously we had standalone chapters in operation risk. Now in 2023, what they did is they changed everything and they said, okay, we're going to be focusing on risk identification, risk mitigation, risk transfer. All of this has been separately bifurcated. Okay, so governance is important, very important. Okay, similarly, 1 star for risk identification, 1 question, but it is slightly important chapter, okay, from the exam perspective. Then risk measurement and assessment, and okay, actually risk mitigation is very important. You can easily expect 1 to 2 question, and I'm not explicitly highlighting, but it is theory. Entire thing is theory. Similarly, if I go back, risk measurement chapter is only 1. It is not that important from the exam perspective, but there are few sections which I'll be highlighting when I teach. Okay, risk mitigation section, then risk reporting part is okay, theoretical, not so important. I'm not highlighting anything specifically. Integrated risk management is important. I'm putting 1 single star over here, highlighting 1 to 2 part on the entire section. 1 to 2 questions will be definitely there. From here, okay, till this point, the basics of risk management in operation risk is covered. Then we are entering into slightly standalone chapter. There are 2 chapters focusing on cyber risk. Okay, again, if you look at this, it's a range of practices. Okay, now what they generally can do is they might test you on cyber risk, okay, and combine, and they might ask you 1 question over here. Okay, so that is being asked in the exam also. They've combined both the chapters and they've asked you one big question in the actual exam. So 1 question, if they are bullish on cybersecurity part in your paper, then they will test you on 2 questions. Again, easy, theoretical, not very tough. Sound management of risk, money laundering. So when now there are series of chapters where they are focusing on fraud, okay, related to operation risk. So this chapter, your outsourcing risk, is also connected to fraud. Then third party risk management, all of these chapters, okay, they are very small chapters. Okay, but what happens is they will ask you 2 to 3 questions connected to these chapters. Okay, from this, the guidance to outsourcing is very important, because in one of the exams, November or May, I don't remember, they had heavily tested on this concept also. Okay, guidance on managing outsourcing risk, I've talked about it. This chapter, investment protection, is also important. Okay, I'm going to mark 1 question because it's a very small chapter, but small case study driven chapter, very simple, very easy. Okay, supervisory guidance, this is where the model risk actually starts. Model risk till now I've not heard being heavily tested in the operation risk curriculum as such. So both the chapters combined should be asked as 1 or maximum 2 question, but not very heavily. The focus till now has not been on model risk section. Okay, again, case study and basically talking about what regulators are talking about model risk management. Stress testing bank, the SCAP procedure is slightly important, but at an overall level, stress testing is, they have been testing theoretical. Okay, so I'm marking 1 question over here, but again, not very important from the exam perspective. RAROC, okay, the RAROC chapter is important. You can easily expect 2 questions from this concept, especially they ask you the calculation or theory related to calculation of RAROC. So that part might get tested in your exam also. This is where the calculation is only there in this chapter, slide calculation. Okay, range of practice and issues, very theoretical. You can skip this chapter also because it is so huge. Okay, it's very lengthy, focusing on a lot of content getting repeated over here. Focus is on the economic capital. How when you're trying to calculate the economic capital of your organization, what is the broader framework or what is the broader approach that you're going to follow. Okay, so do this chapter at the end of your curriculum. Don't take that tension of, because even if you read, you'll forget. It's like that. Capital planning at large bank holding company, important, slightly important. Okay, you can expect 1 to 2 question range from this chapter. Okay, this has been after the crisis. Okay, so bank holding company concept and the capital plan is widely discussed in this chapter. From here, we are entering into Basel. Okay, from chapter 55 till the end, we are primarily focusing on Basel. So first chapter, very, very important. You should know the details, everything from this chapter. Okay, this is important, so do not skip it. First chapter, second chapter, very, very important, focusing on all details of Basel, reference. So only the first two chapters you can easily expect 2 to 3 questions. There's some calculation based part also over here, but majorly theory. Now the next two chapters are also related to Basel, but they are very short frameworks. So I don't expect them to be much tested in the actual exam. So I'm not marking anything over here, where few sections might be important, but at an overall level, they are not very important. Okay, so with this, we have completed your book 3. Now we are going to move towards book 4. Book 4, what was that? Liquidity risk. Okay. Again, liquidity risk, entire risk was, I think so, was added in 2020 exam. The entire book, again, 20-25 chapters. Theoretical, lengthy, focusing on, if you're working in risk management, liquidity risk management team book, obviously this book will become very easy for you. From the exam perspective, it has less weightages as compared to market credit and operation. Okay. Let us go to the first chapter. First chapter is important, but it's a building block of risk management. It's a huge chapter, few very important concepts. So I expect around 1 to 2 questions from this chapter. Liquidity and leverage is also important. I'm marking this S star. Okay, again 1 to 2 chapter. In this, the chapter is bifurcated into 2 parts: liquidity and then the leverage. Very easy. If you just only point problem is this is lengthy. Okay, so it's an easy chapter. Early warning indicator, not so important chapter. You can just read it out. It's not very tough also. It's very theoretical, easy chapter. Investment function, basically talking about how do they manage their funds within the company. So basically the investment team within the bank, what is the role that they perform? So not so important. Strategies and policies, very important chapter. Again, you can expect 1 to 2 theoretical questions coming from this. Okay, the source and the use of fund, structure of fund, liquidity, all are important. These pointers are important from the exam perspective. Intraday liquidity risk, you can expect 1 question from the chapter, but not very important when you look at the overall curriculum. Monitoring liquidity risk, slightly important. I'm marking this as star and putting 1 to 2 question at an overall level. Okay, in this chapter, the funding cost, liquidity generation capacity is slightly important. So just focus on the concept. What is written in the concept, you'll be able to pick it up. Okay, but it is 1 star, not 2 star. Let us go to the next chapter, failure mechanics of dealer bank, putting it as seconds, 2 star, 2 questions can be asked in this exam. Conceptual theory chapter, but you have to think from the dealer bank's perspective, where they can lose money and what are the ways they can protect themselves. The entire chapter is very interesting. Liquidity stress testing, not so important chapter. I'm not marking explicitly. Liquidity risk reporting is okay. You can expect 1 question from this topic. Contingency funding plan is important, putting 1 star. Okay, again 1 question important, but because this contingency funding plan is taken very seriously in the actual real world. So from that perspective, I think so they can be tested over here. Managing and pricing deposit services, and then there is non-deposit also. There are 2 chapters. Okay, so if I'm not wrong, this first chapter is important. Managing and pricing deposit service, it generally gets tested in the exam. The approaches and the logic, the basic lifeline banking is also tested in the actual exam. Managing non-deposit services, basic 1 question can be expected, not very important concepts. There is 1 concept which is available fund gap. That part might get tested in your exam. Repo, important. You can expect 1 to 2 question. The repurchase agreement that we had seen in level 1, it has gone in detail and explained in detail from the exam perspective. Liquidity transfer pricing, a guide to better management. Yes, transfer pricing as a concept is also important, marking it as star, but 1 question. Certain section of the chapter is important. US dollar shortage, I've not heard that it has been explicitly tested in the exam, so not so important, but 1 question can be expected. Covered interest rate parity is okay. Risk management of changing interest rate, important, marking it as double star. 2 questions are important. The interest rate sensitivity management, these are important concepts from the exam perspective. Illiquid asset, okay, but not important. 1 question can be expected from this chapter. Okay, let us move to the next book, which is the investment management book. Now the beauty about this book is when you read the initial chapter, they will start talking about individual asset, and then as you move further, they will take you towards the portfolio. Okay, what is the risk of portfolio and all of it, and then as you move forward, it will take you towards the manager who is managing that portfolio. So and all the chapters are connected. Okay, so first chapter talks about factor theory. That means they are explaining you that why you should not look at asset only, you should look at only the factors which are impacting the asset. Okay, so from the exam perspective, 1 star, one question is easily expected from this chapter. Okay, factors. Now why, when you're done with the first chapter where they have explained you why factor is important, now they're talking about what are the different factors available. Okay, so from that perspective, it is slightly one question is expected from this chapter. Alpha, very important chapter, do not skip it. Okay, 1 to 2 question. Students have explicitly mentioned that they have got questions focusing on Grindal's law, fundamental law. Then there was this factor regression. They've talked about this, and basically at an overall level, the alpha has been tested. Okay, portfolio construction, not so important chapter, but you can expect one question. Okay, the idea over here is that there are certain sections in the chapter which are important. For example, what is the optimal no trade region, how transaction cost is impacting your portfolio construction. So those part, then screen stratification, this has been tested in the past exam. That is important. Okay, but not the overall chapter. Portfolio risk analysis is very important. Okay, easily 2 to 3 question focusing on what is component VAR, marginal VAR has been, individual VAR, component VAR has been asked in the previous exam. So do not skip. Formulas are also important. It is calculation based chapter. Next chapter, VAR and VAR budgeting, important. Easily you can expect 1 to 2 question from the exam perspective, but the chapters are theoretical but important. Okay, especially the policy mix risk and active risk management and sponsor risk. They have been tested in the actual exam also. Now from here, we have entered into portfolio. Now we are talking about monitoring of the manager and monitoring of the portfolio. Okay, so from here that concept is basically going to get started. Risk monitoring and performance measurement, one question but not so important. This is slightly important, but portfolio performance, hedge fund. Okay, again we are looking at the overall how the portfolio is performing. Okay, next is hedge fund, where they are looking at managers also. So this is connected to more or less your level 1 chapter. There was fund management chapter, so slightly connected to it. One question but not so important chapter. Performing due diligence is important. Okay, you can expect one question from easily from this chapter, but this chapter will test you all your basic understanding of the previous chapters. Predicting fraud is also important. One question. It's a small case study, but this chapter is important from the exam perspective. Current issues. Now what happens is I'm explicitly not touching current issues because every year the current issues will change. Ideally it should change. Few chapters might be repeated, but focusing right now on current issues will not help, because there is very good chances that when the institute is going to announce the new curriculum, they'll change the current issues part. So when you're preparing for the exam, you should never start with current issues. You should do it at the end itself. Okay, so can I get a quick confirmation till this point? Is everybody with me on YouTube also? Everybody with me? Any queries that people might have? Any queries? Okay, so few pointers related to the preparation that we are going to do. So how Fintelligent will help you. Okay, first of all, we are going to be conducting lectures Saturdays and Sundays. Okay, it is going to be in morning 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. roughly. It might go to 1 also. Okay, if there is any change on a one particular day, we'll inform you beforehand itself. Okay, weightages of each book I can share it right now. I can share it on the WhatsApp group also. I don't remember the exact, it is 15, 15, 15 if I'm not wrong, and then you have 10, 10 and last 5, like something like that. Okay, so weightages, first 3 books are heavy weightage. Our lectures are going to be on Saturdays and Sundays morning time. Now what is expected from the students? Okay, we'll be covering the curriculum. Okay, so market risk and credit risk I will be covering. Okay, liquidity risk, and you have operation risk. So Hemant sir will be covering. Okay, investment risk, I'll be doing some chapters from liquidity risk also. Investment risk, it's going to be me and Hemant sir both, Ganesh and Hemant sir both. Current issues, that will be run at the ends, so mostly it's going to be Hemant sir. Okay, so that is how we'll be covering the overall curriculum, and we are planning to start with 2 books simultaneously. Okay, it's going to be market and slightly credit risk also. Now what is expected from the students? So whenever you are preparing for level 2, okay, please do not use the same approach that we're doing for the level 1. Okay, for level 2, when what is expected is that when there is a lecture, okay, before the lecture, watch the video of the chapter, because we have already given you the videos, right? So video of the chapter, identify your doubts. Okay, and what we are going to be doing in the lecture, so we will not go paragraph by paragraph, because in the video we have gone in detail. Okay, so what we will be doing now is we'll take the 2-3 paragraphs, we'll explain the overall concept, what they are trying to help you understand, and then we will explain the concept. Okay, plus we will be solving 1 to 2 question also. Okay, so that the concept gets solidified in your mind, and then we'll wait. If there is any query, that query will also be resolved. But watching of video, identification of query is very important. Okay, please do not treat this as level 1, that I'll come directly to the lecture. No, that is how your second reading will happen with me. Okay, or basically the professor. So this is very, very important. Okay, next, whenever you're prepared, this is from the perspective of Fintelligent. Okay, because we're going to be taking live sessions, video lectures are available from the start, plus the question bank will be added by December mid or December end. Okay, we'll be adding it as soon as possible, because we have to see what is the change in the curriculum that is going to happen. Okay, when you're preparing now for the exam, okay, some pointers related to exam preparation. Okay, so first of all, the content is theory heavy, so you will have to read the content at least 2 to 3 times, okay, before you go to the exam. So keep that in mind, you'll have to read it again, and first time when you're reading, you will forget. So don't panic, it's very normal, because it is vast, it is theory. Okay, when you do the second and third reading, that is where you will be able to connect the dots. So that second and third reading is very important. Okay, this is very important. Okay, from the exam perspective, now when you're starting, say for example 1st of November, okay, till ideally, okay, you should be able to complete by end of April. End of April, you should be able to complete all 97 chapters with their chapter wise solving. Okay, from 1st of May, because the exam is ideally going to be on 24th, 25th of May. So you have good amount of 20 days time where you can do sectional test, okay, plus mock papers. So till the actual exam date. Okay, that should be the ideal approach. Next is if few things which I felt that a lot of students might be able to connect is that don't be very fast in your preparation. maintain consistency. Okay, we generally feel that okay, I'll complete everything and then I'll revise. You'll have the pressure of revising the content. Okay, so ideally your revision should happen when you're solving the question bank. That is by default one revision. If you're attending the lecture, that is by default one more revision. Okay, so maintain consistency in your preparation at an overall level. Okay, focus on market, credit. Read these two books are important. Ops risk. Okay, you have to keep on reading the Schweizer book. Okay, few chapters you might, if you have time, okay, then you can go and look at the GARB book, but even if you're going through Schweizer, it is more than enough. Now, when you talk about exam, the actual exam date, okay, what has been my experience is that majority of the students who are appearing for level 2, they are going to be working professional, majority of them. Okay, so when you reach the actual exam date, out of 100% students who are sitting for the exam, okay, 20% roughly, my experience, okay, they would enter the exam, okay, without reading the full book. They have not got time to cover the entire curriculum. Okay, and overall, at an overall level, 25 to 30% students will be those who have not covered full syllabus or not solved chapter wise question bank. So why am I stressing this? If you are in a position to do all 97 chapters plus solving of all 97 chapter question bank, you have a very good chance of clearing the exam. Okay, again, maintain consistency. Don't be in an approach to solve everything right now. Okay, so this itself will help you to kick start your chance, increase your chances of clearing the exam. Further, whenever you are preparing for the exam perspective, okay, you should think that option elimination is going to be very, very important. It was also there in your level 1, but in this case, optional elimination becomes more important because you'll have to read the question twice, and this is the general trend. In the actual exam, you'll have to read the question twice, option twice, and then only you'll be able to pick up one question. Okay, out of total 100, out of total 80 questions in the actual exam, okay, you will find theory and calculation. So calculation would be around roughly 15 questions. Okay, and out of this 15 question, also 7 to 8 will be very easy. That means plug and play, straight away formula based questions. Okay, in the book the formula might be very big, but they might ask a subset of the formula and they will ask you. But the rest questions are tricky. This is what I've seen in the last 2 exams. And the rest out of that, if suppose I'm putting say 65 question, they are theoretical questions, they are heavy theory questions. Okay, you'll find big questions also in the actual exam. So this is the overall perspective. Any queries? Any query with respect to preparation for FRM level 2? Aditya, Miraj, Sakshi, Christina, Nilesh. So to clear the exam, keep it very simple. Maintain consistency, follow the approach which I am giving you. Okay, if you're attending the lectures, consistently attend the lecture because that will act as a revision for your overall content. You don't have to explicitly wait for the revision to be done, and be clear in your mind, okay, that you're going to pass the exam in next May 2024. Okay, do not have that thought process that I'll go for August. If that is the case, don't join my batch. It has to be May, 110% it has to be May, and you're going to pass the exam. That is what your thought process should be. Okay, Raghav, answering to your query. Okay, out of 80 question, my experience, if you're able to score above 45, you're good. Good chances of clearing the exam. Obviously, the more you score, the better the chances are. Okay. For SCR, we're going to be starting out a batch in Feb. So we're going to be doing an orientation on around December. Okay, on YouTube. What exactly is the exam? I'll talk about the exam perspective. What was the last October exam experience and all of that. Okay. So if there is no further queries, I'll close the session. So thank you very much, guys, for joining in. And let us crack FRM level 2 in the first attempt itself. Thank you.